next 10 seconds. I'm just cross-checking. Yeah, we're live.
All right.
Just waiting for a couple of people to join us and then we'll start. Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Doshi and welcome to a very special episode of Sapna Rise. Today we have two lovely women with us and we're going to have a special book launch planned for today's event. So let me quickly introduce you to the people present today. We have Dr. Nandita Iyer and we have Miss Loveleen Arun. Nandita Iyer doesn't need an introduction. She's been a celebrity chef, she's a best-selling author, and she's a very renowned nutritionist. Nandita, welcome to the chat today.
Thank you.
Miss Loveleen, she has ruled the world of travel and luxury, if I can say. She has started and founded Panache World in 2001. She's been with luxury hotels before this and with a lot of travel brands. And we can really say that she's defined and rechanged the way the travel industry works today with her company. Welcome, Loveleen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're at the launch of Everyday Superfoods. And Nandita, if you could, talk a little bit about the book.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the launch of my book, Everyday Superfoods. And I'm thankful to Sapna Book House for hosting the launch, and of course, my publisher is Bloomsbury India. And today, we plan to have this conversation together, Loveleen, Natasha, and I. And we'll be talking, of course, about the book, but also some other interesting things around my journey to becoming a writer and things about nutrition and our present concerns with our health and how we're using nutrition to address them, etc. So I look forward to this conversation. And Natasha and Sapna Book House, thanks for having us here.
It's our honor.
Yes, and thank you for giving this platform to, I'm like so happy. One, because growing up in Bangalore, one is always aware of Sapna Book House as an institution that one would go to get all their books, whether it's the fiction or the non-fiction or the dreaded college books. So Sapna was always the place that we would head out to. So I never imagined that, I would be on a Sapna platform interviewing one of my favorite people online, who I follow ardently and then have met, and now here we are. So thank you, Sapna Book House, for this opportunity. Really chuffed to be here.
As I said, I think it's an honor to have you ladies on our platform and to discuss and launch Nandita's book today.
So should we begin by getting to know more about the book from Nandita herself? Because we really want to get behind the whole thought process of this book. And, I had this sneak peek at the book, and I spent yesterday reading it, and it has been, I was really moved with it. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions of you, Nandita, because I feel that, people who are watching this will really get benefited knowing why they can buy this book or why they should buy this book. And there is so much clarity in your thought on how you've gone about it that I'm hoping that I will be able to bring out that clarity for the people. But before we get into the book, I just want to know from you, your journey basically to be here. So should we start at the beginning to say, just tell us a little about your earlier childhood and, where and how did food play an important role in that part of your journey and your life?
Yeah, Thanks, Loveleen, for all the kind words. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you today. Um to start off, I am a fourth generation Mumbaikar, although I live in Bangalore right now. And right from my great grandparents, they had moved to Bombay in 1930s, or I think, yeah, 1930s. And so it was while we were like very rooted to the Tamil culture, but it's also the the aspect of being in a very uh, upcoming like city like Bombay in those days, of course, in the early like 1930s, 40s. So just being in that city, while you're still struggling to be in touch with your own culture, you do absorb the culture of a cosmopolitan city like Bombay, the language, the food, the vegetables, because not like you come from a village somewhere in Tamil Nadu and things are not the same at all. More so the language, and while lot of people migrated from Tamil Nadu to similar locations, so they could feel the temples, the language, the flowers, the food, everything kind of in one place. But it's a long and gradual process. So I was brought up by my grandparents, and so I spent all of my childhood with them. And of course, they were deeply traditional, but of course, kind of modern also, because living in like a city like Bombay, like you can't be that kind of hardcore traditional like you could possibly be in a village in Tamil Nadu. So I think I was brought up with a fair bit of balance between the traditional and the modern, and also some very strict values, like got to wake up early in the morning, have to eat the food that's served to you. Of course, my family is all vegetarian, so like whatever vegetable was cooked for the day, you had to eat it. There was no option. And things like getting stuff done on time, a certain discipline, which as much as we like to rebel against as kids, and I feel like that that whole inculcating discipline early on in life, like making me wake up early, which used to be anytime before 7 when I was a kid, but now I wake up around 4:30 myself because I feel that's the most productive aspect of my day. So since you asked about childhood, there are so many things which I kind of thought it's too much then, but then I myself have gone a step ahead and taken it into my own life. And like even the aspect of eating literally everything, because I cook for myself. I could just eat potatoes every day, but I don't do that. I cook whatever is in season, whatever is available, and wherever I travel, I try to eat the vegetables and produce of that place. So I think these are all subconscious learnings from childhood, which I carry to my adulthood, and I think that also influences the things I do or the books I write, for example.
Absolutely. And all of us can relate to those really strict childhood memories where we were, things were put in front of us and there was no Swiggy, no Zomato, and, you had to either eat it or leave it, So I guess that sets the base for a lot of us. And coming to a little later stage in your life, it's always fascinated me that doctor in your name, Dr. Nandita Iyer. So, is this like a research doctor where you researched on food, or is this a medical doctor, a proper doctor? So, will you tell us about that as well?
So yeah, it's a short answer. It's a doctor. I did study medicine MBBS from Bombay, and all through my schooling and childhood, I was always I had this liking for the sciences, more specifically chemistry, and of course all the arts, like be it drawing, be it music, or be it writing as well. So I was interested in all of these. But like a 70s kid, and those who are from those that generation will get it, that if you did really well in school and you got a certain percentage, like taking arts was out of question. If you did get admission into a good science stream, there was really no other option, or you weren't you couldn't just leave it and move to something else. And I think it just happened like that, and then I ended up joining medicine because I did get good marks and I got a seat. So it was like, who leaves a seat in medicine? And I ended up doing medicine, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it's not like I was forced to do it, but I enjoyed the whole process of learning. And it was great. And after some time, I actually started getting deeper into food. I think we may talk about it a bit later, but yeah, so in my late 20s, when I got actually into cooking and food, that's when I thought, like, I need to learn a little bit more about nutrition. So I went ahead and did a course in nutrition. So you can say that I have studied medicine, and I've also studied nutrition, and I'm deeply passionate about cooking. So all these three things combined is what makes me write a book like Everyday Superfoods.
But when did food happen? I mean, at what part of your life you said,
Right.
of course, you've grown up in a vegetarian household and food was important as it was for all of us. But when did food nutrition become like a focus for you?
So I wasn't really into food as a kid. Like, I would just eat what was served. I was not picky, and I was not, I was not that crazy that make this, make that. I would just eat whatever was available. And I think it's also because I studied medicine, and a study like that does not leave you any time for hobbies or pursuing anything outside, like creativity kind of thing. So I just didn't, I never got into the kitchen. I barely learned anything in cooking. And growing up with my grandparents, even they were just like saying, "Don't enter the kitchen. Just do your studies and mind your business. Don't bother, you know, cooking right now." So nobody pushed me, and I had so many other interests that I was forever busy, like attending some class or some competition or something like that. So I never really got interested in cooking. And it's in my it's actually the first brush happened when in my medical college, after you finish your graduation, you have this compulsory rural internship that you have to do. And when I went to this like a rural place in Maharashtra, the food was absolutely inedible. Like, it was, for even for a non-picky eater like me, extremely spicy. And like, it's just not too, I mean, something I just couldn't eat that. So I thought, okay, I really need to start cooking something for myself if I have to survive. And my fellow interns, like, they were saying, "Oh my God, you don't know to cook anything." So I was kind of feeling embarrassed and ashamed for not knowing to cook at all. But in their company, I did learn a little bit then. But then I actually started cooking only in my late 20s. I think I spent a year in the US, and having this 24-hour food TV channel is when I was like utterly fascinated with cooking, the different cuisines and baking and everything. And I think that's when I actually started getting into cooking. And I started my food blog in 2006, which is now completes 15 years in this month.
I was going
And
to come to that because now
yeah,
it's like a formidable body of work. And, so it's been a journey from just being Nandita or Dr. Nandita Iyer to Saffron Trails, as you are known across platforms. And
yeah,
for people who are, looking at this interview, if I don't know if you are, you must be on some other planet if you're not following her, because she has an amazingly large following on whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and the way she puts up the food things and the way she I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. It's also the singing that accompanies all the food. It's just a pleasure to get up in the morning, and even if it's a slow mo of your coffee, or it's the way you're putting the dosa on the tawa with a beautiful Hindustani vocal music behind it, it just lifts up spirits, and then when you go into the caption, there's this whole amount of information. So I am pretty sure that people follow you for a reason, and for all the value that you give. But how has that journey been from being Nandita to the Saffron Trail?
so I just started my food blog as a way to log in my own experiments in the kitchen, because I was such an instinctive and intuitive cook that I would just throw whatever came into my hands. And if someone asked me to repeat that dish, I myself wouldn't know what just went into that for the first time. So I thought, let me keep a record for myself. And those were the days when Blogger and those interface were pretty simple, and you could just create your own blog. I said, okay, it's easily searchable. I won't lose this diary, and I can keep this for myself. So that's how actually started my blog in 2006, and I didn't even know that like food blogging was a thing, and it was as basic as that. And slowly, I think 10 years ago, when like each first it was Facebook, then Instagram, Twitter came up, then Instagram. So each social media platform, started presenting different kinds of opportunities to share your content. And of course, earlier when you started your blog, you were happy if your two friends and your four relatives were reading it, and then you wanted to increase the reach and show your content to more people. And social media helped spread the word about your blog and your content and the stuff that you're sharing. And if it is useful, then people try to like try out your recipes or follow you on these platforms to get some inspiration. So that was the whole reason I ended up using all these social media platforms. And it's just that
You also get
it felt
asked.
like, pardon.
Sorry. No, I was going to say that while you're interacting with all of them, do you also get asked a lot of questions that you weren't like, ready to answer, but then you get pulled into answering? I'm sure people must be reacting in and asking and being curious.
So in the early days of the blog, people would ask questions and leave comments. And it's not like, in 2005, 2006, 2007, or even up to 2011, 12, we were not online all the time. And because everything was not on our phone and we were not like constantly hooked onto the internet. So like you would answer the comments maybe the next day or a couple of days later. But then this whole social media presented this whole instant gratification thing where people want to know like, if you post a picture on Instagram, okay, I just cooked something for breakfast and I post it on Instagram, and I don't have the time to type out the recipe, then you'll get like a whole bunch of recipe, please, exclamation mark. So I almost feel like somebody standing on the kadai and saying like, now, give recipe, I'm going to start making. I truly appreciate that enthusiasm and that, that drive to cook that thing based on the picture I posted. But it's not always possible to share something immediately or answer something immediately. It's because you're online doesn't mean that you have the bandwidth to answer questions on all social media platforms. And it just helps to also we feel the pressure to answer someone instantly because you feel okay, they've asked the question and you are online, might as well answer. But yeah, I do get a variety of questions like, if you post anything baking related, the first question will be eggless.
That's funny.
If you post something with milk, there'll be like a vegan version, please. And then if you post something with wheat, there'll be a gluten-free version, please. So, I mean, while I just laugh it off, but I appreciate like they want to try out something and make their own version. So there's nothing against the question. But, these are also, unless you have tried it out yourself, how can I, suggest something like instead of wheat flour, if I say use some other flour, like besan, I should know if it's going to work because I can't just recommend something through my, my imagination, because in food, certain things work, certain things don't work. And when it doesn't work, it's a lot of waste of time and ingredients and effort. So you can't just recommend things without trying. So that's why it takes time when someone asks a question. And if we do have it in us to try it out and spend time on that and then give another version. So these are the little things that happen.
So there's a term that I learned from your first chapter in the book, and that term is orthorexiance. So people who have an unhealthy obsession with eating healthy. And are these also the kind of people who, knowing that you are a cook, who you cook beautifully and you are a nutrition specialist, do these people also tend to hit you up a lot on social media?
Well, you can't really tell if someone is suffering from orthorexia just by their comments, and it's a genuine problem where
it's a problem. It's not just like a term.
It's kind of an eating disorder, and it's quite common these days because one, you're fed with so much information via all the content channels, and people say eat this, don't eat this, that causes cancer, this causes instant weight loss. You're constantly bombarded with so much information, and this kind of causes its own kind of anxiety when someone has to choose. If someone is genuinely health conscious, trying to find out what is good for you and what is not good for you, even with someone like me who has a background in science and nutrition and medicine, it's not just easy to pick and choose, like that. So I think sometimes it's just easier to go back to the thousands of years of what our ancestors have been eating, and you go with that because that's been tested for 1,000 years. Nothing is, if like my ancestors have been eating rice for 1,000 years, it's not going to affect me so badly
Yeah.
if I eat rice. So I think
Yeah, in
that
fact,
kind of
you've written on your book, don't eat
that
anything
kind
that
of
your great great grandmother doesn't
yeah.
recognize as food. So,
Yeah, so that's of course a very famous saying by the food guru Michael Pollan, and it's just that sometimes it's better off being in the comfort of thousands of years of tacit wisdom of our ancestors than trying to just believe one white paper which came out yesterday and therefore it's all over the media that hey, something causes cancer or something will make you obese overnight. So those kind of extreme guidelines or extreme thoughts are what also cause a lot of panic and anxiety among people.
sure. And I love the way how in your book you start with this chapter called, your relationship with your food. And what I loved about it was that you weren't preachy in that chapter. So, you just help sort of break it down and make you analyze how you're approaching food and what is your relationship with it. Would you like to talk about that? Because I especially found that chapter very interesting because of the way you've broken it down. And I think that is a very important step towards going into the heart of the book. So I would want you to just say, what would the readers find in that first chapter, because it's very important and I loved it personally.
Thanks. So my point is, we all know what the superfoods are, and everyone thinks that you eat superfood rich diet and you will be healthy. But it's not. You need to look at your overall diet and lifestyle, from afar and see how you're faring in that department. And to give an example, like your parents or your very long-term partner, you tend to take them for granted. You never notice anything about them, or you just life goes on and you don't really inspect what is happening, how are they talking, how are they behaving. It's not like a new thing. So similarly with food, we are like we're just going with the flow. We don't really, sometimes you're watching Netflix and we end up eating something like a whole packet of chips or ice cream or something, and at the end of it we don't even realize that we have eaten it. And at the end of the day, when you're going to sleep, you may not even recall that you ate that, because it's fine to eat it, but did we even enjoy it? Because we just ate it so fast while being engaged in something else, that we didn't even enjoy that food. That food gives us enjoyment, but we didn't even take a moment to enjoy that crunch and the fun of eating chips, right? So I think when we look at there's so many different things to inspect when we look at our relationship with food. Like, who bought the ingredients? Where was the stuff grown? Who bought it? Did you go to the market and buy it? Did you order it online? How did you decide what you want to eat or cook today? Did you see something on Instagram, or did you see some recipe in the newspaper, or did you, like, for example, buy my book and you thought this is inspiring? What led you to, we just go through the motions so mindlessly, and we don't even know why am I making this for dinner today? Did I even think about it? And how am I eating this? Am I eating this at the table with someone I love, or I'm just eating it while watching Netflix or whatever you're watching? There's so many different aspects to our relationship with food. And is it a balance? And then these are all the very philosophical questions. And also, the main thing is my plate balanced? What am I eating? Am I eating enough vegetables? And then you go still behind and you watch, like, what have I eaten for the whole week? Have I
Yeah.
eaten enough balanced foods? Or how many times did I order food this week? How many times did I eat things that came straight out of a packet? And
Yeah.
these are things that are simpler questions to answer, because it doesn't require too much deep thinking. If you've even made a note in your diary, which is also in my book, like how to keep a record of things that you have eaten, because
Mm.
it's also, keeping a diary is the most honest thing you can do for your relationship with food. Like, even if you had like two pieces of a chocolate, or you had one Coke or whatever you had, just be honest and put it down, and you will know at the end of 2 days that how much are you consuming out of a packet, how much is cooked.
Yeah.
I read this beautiful thing written by Michael Pollan, uh, which I want to share. For is there any practice less selfish, less labor intensive, less alienated, less wasted than preparing something delicious and nourishing for people you love? There is actually no other, no greater thing you can do for someone, be it your family, be it your kids, be it your friends, than cooking something from scratch. And that also is taken so much for granted. If you're cooking every day in your house, nobody is going to bother what you made, how you made. Yeah, okay, it's there. And you may have taken 2 hours to cook something, but people will eat it in 2 minutes and move away. So that whole cycle, which can be a beautiful experience, we have just compressed it and mangled it over the years. And I'm also guilty of that. It's not like I sit at the table and eat all my meals. So
Yeah.
it's also like whatever I wrote, it's also a note to self to be a little bit more mindful. And just to give another small example, which I think a lot of our viewers will relate to that. Say, the oranges were so much in season like a month ago, and we were getting it by the bag full. And if you just eat it, you can eat like 5 oranges. You can literally sniff through 5 oranges and not realize anything. But
Yeah.
just take one orange, sit down and peel it carefully. That peeling itself is the first layer of aromatherapy. Then you see the beautiful color, and then you remove the segments and stuff, and each one you open, again the aroma is so uplifting, and then you
Yeah.
eat one by one, and you slowly close your eyes and enjoy that experience of the nature's most delicious bounty and fruit. And you can actually enjoy one orange for like 15 minutes and not like 15 oranges in 1 minute, which, if you're drinking a glass of juice, you've missed out on that entire experience, because you don't get that fragrance, you don't get that experience of bonding with something that nature has gifted us, right? So I feel that's where the whole mindfulness experience comes in. I've also listed a small exercise in the book on how you can actually engage all your five senses.
Yeah.
Think of food as not something you just eat, but it's eyes, your nose, your skin, everything, your ears when you're crunching on something. So the tadka sounds, everything. So you're literally all your five senses you engage with the food, and that's the true experience.
Actually, I want to read out of your book where you explain this. You've said reinvest your senses in the food you eat, bond with the ingredients used to prepare the dish in front of you, using your senses of touch, smell, sight, sound, and taste. Enjoy the feel of a well kneaded dough, the faintly sour aroma of fermented idli batter, the visual beauty of a colorful fresh salad, the sharp crackle of cumin and mustard seeds spluttering in a tadka, and the taste of a perfectly sweet and sour Nagpur orange. So, yeah, you really bring home that point. And the way you eased out of reestablishing the relationship, and then you go into explaining the superfoods. So, what exactly is, when you would have written this book, when I hear of superfoods, it's always these hyped up, those little ads you see on social media on the side, which where people are trying to push or lose weight in 10 days and eat goji berries or acai berries, or all kinds of exotic stuff from around the world. So in my mind, superfood is just that which is expensive and comes from some remote jungle in Brazil or something like that. Now, how do you define superfoods?
Uh, the scientific definition of a superfood is any food or ingredient that is really concentrated in one or more of the following, which is vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So it could be in any combination. Some have all three. Some are so rich in one, and that itself qualifies them as a superfood. And there is no way it says that it has to be expensive. There's no way this definition says that it has to come from 10,000 miles away from where you live. And which is why I want to put the spotlight, and which is why the word everyday, which
Yeah.
means it's around you, you can have it every day, it's easily accessible, it's local, and it's not so expensive, because if it's something expensive, you people can't eat it every day. So it's just bringing a superfood into your everyday life, and which is the only way it will make a sustained impact on your health. Because today, if I buy like a packet of goji berries and I eat it in 3 days, and then what? Like, that's not going to make me super healthy for the rest of my life. It will maybe temporarily increase my vitamin C levels or antioxidant levels, but it's not a long term proposition. And I think, which is why my book, I feel like it's not just for 2021, or it's not just for post COVID. In fact, I had finished writing this book before we went into lockdown. So it was definitely not with the pandemic in mind. And it is and while we are so much more focused on our health and wellness right now, but we need to remember this lesson for the longer time, that our health is everything to us. And if we can improve it by eating some of these everyday ingredients in creative ways, and improving your diet and lifestyle overall, then there's really nothing better you can do for yourself or your family.
Exactly. And though you just said it, but I want to re-emphasize that when people look at your book or see it on the shelf and they say, okay, they look at Everyday Superfoods and the focus is on superfoods. But having read your book, I want to tell everybody that there is an equal emphasis on the everyday part, because it is amazing how you've taken away the exoticism of the superfoods. They're not these exotic things that you've picked up from around the world, but you have literally made us look at things in the kitchen with a new eye, so to say, and look at food items and vegetables and everyday things. I mean, today in the kitchen, Nandita, I have to tell you this, that, I read the book yesterday. Today, I was making this kashayam for my mom-in-law who's not well, and I had this Lokadong turmeric in the fridge. And I had never paid attention to it until I had read again in your book that it is one of the best form of turmeric in the world. And I said, okay, here's new respect for you based on this new book that I've read. So, and then in chapter 4, you actually give an entire compendium of these everyday superfoods. And I've loved how you have gone into each one of them. Okay, why don't you say this about your chapter, how you've broken those superfoods down, because you would be able to say it better, because I will just go on and on. Tell us about all you've actually created like a little dictionary of superfoods around us. And I'm going to be back in a minute putting on the light. Please just carry on. I'm listening to you.
Yeah. So the chapter Superfood Compendium has 39 ingredients which I've chosen purely because, one, they are very rich in nutrients and they are like a concentrated source of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. And they're really available in India. Okay, maybe every ingredient is not available in all parts of India, but that's why there's a whole variety, and you can choose whatever is local to you, because India itself is a whole, a huge number of microclimates and agricultural zones. So everything will not grow everywhere. So choose whatever is local to you. And I also wanted stuff that is easily accessible. Like, you don't have to, go to some really fancy store to, sorry. You don't have to go to a fancy store to, buy something. And I also wanted to make sure that the things that I list as superfoods are going to be, used regularly in your kitchen. Again, if it's some very exotic ingredient, even if it's local, then you will not find that kind of, usage where I can use it every day in my food. Say like a turmeric, black pepper, things like bell pepper, things like cabbage. I can find hundreds of ways to use it in my everyday cooking. But something a little more exotic, like I had included things like nutmeg initially, but how frequently am I going to be able to use nutmeg in my everyday cooking? That's one. And two, how much am I going to use? I can always say that 100 grams of this has, X amount of vitamins and X amount of antioxidants, but I'm going to use less than a gram. So is it even, making sense to include that? And the second thing is, I have also included spices like black pepper, even though we don't use too much of it like nutmeg. But because something like black pepper really improves the absorption of curcumin, which is in turmeric, so that kind of helps better absorption of the vital ingredients in turmeric. So that really helps if you include the two together in dishes. So in some of my recipes, I have included both turmeric and black pepper. So one helps in better absorption of the other. So if you're eating a superfood, you also want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. So if I'm using 5 grams of turmeric in like or 2 grams of turmeric in a dish, I want to make sure I'm making the most of it. So that's why I have chosen certain ingredients because they're very beneficial as companions to other ingredients also. And also things that are local. Like I could have well chosen like red dragon fruit because it's so rich in the red pigment, anthocyanin, and which is a very powerful antioxidant. But beetroots, pomegranates, and red grapes also have that. So why not choose them? So it was like, one of those MasterChef Australia contestant selection process. Like I had
No, I know. Because there are 39, because there are 39 superfoods, and I've not been able to get over it, because how could you stop at 39, not make it 40?
I want to say
Something to
something
tell us
there.
about that.
I just want to say something there. So I used to write for BuzzFeed India, and the rule in BuzzFeed is you should always have an odd number for your listicle because it's been proven that that's what works to get the maximum hits. So when I came to this number, initially it was 40, and then I had to cut out one last ingredient because somehow it wasn't fitting in for the nutrition aspect of it. And I said, "Oh my God, I've just made like a BuzzFeed listicle in my book because I have this really vague odd number." Ingredients. Definitely, that was not my intention to start with.
Okay, that is no. Also, I mean, one of the you're being very sort of humble about this, but you've also, in the end of each of the superfoods, for the people who are listening in, she's also gone and given very nice ways of incorporating these superfoods into our foods. So if it is, we did talk about your favorite, which is the amla, for example. It's very it's nice and everything, but it's very difficult for people to incorporate it or keep it with them for a long time over the year to keep it. So you've actually suggested ways, and to incorporate it in your food in different ways, and very, I loved all the different ways that you've put it. So this you've done for each one of them, and would you like to say a little bit about how to use these through the year, these superfoods through the year in our food?
While researching for my book, I also had a lot of learnings, and I think every author does that. Like nobody starts off knowing everything, and we ourselves learn a lot in the process of writing. And especially for amla, say it's a very seasonal fruit. It's not available fresh round the year. So if you look at Indian cuisine, we have so many ways of preserving amla so that it can be used throughout the year. One, of course, is pickles. Then you put it in brine and it stays for a very long time. Then you dry it out and it becomes amla supari. Then you make a murabba out of it, which is like a jam. Again, can stay for a year. There's so many different ways in which you can. This is a fresh fruit available for 2 to 3 months in the year. Extremely beneficial for us. So in our Indian culture, we are just. I mean, the things that we kind of ignore and we forget and we again take for granted, but we have these ways and means of preserving this one fruit, at least 10 ways that I know, but I'm sure there are 50 because I don't claim to know everything. 50 different ways to preserve this one fruit for the whole year. So you can have it in your, and it doesn't require any fancy food storage, some freezer, which an ordinary Indian home will never have those things. So things like supari, you leave it on a counter also to stay forever. So we have not just found out ways to preserve something for the whole year because this is not available around the year, but also in the most economical and the most practical and simple way that doesn't ask you to go buy 5 other gadgets, 4 other storage methods. So
Yeah.
it's so easily embraceable in your life. And I think a few of these things are worth going back to and learning from our grandmothers and our mothers and aunts and understanding how we did this. So I learned this absolutely delicious amla pickle from one of my neighbor aunties. She's from Andhra, and you won't believe it. I have never made pickle in my life before. I learned a couple of years ago from her, and I make it. And even with my amateur hands, that pickle stays for a whole year. So I think it's just about spending some time and learning these things so we can actually incorporate them in our lives.
Sure. And as I think we can invite Natasha to take questions from the audience. But before we go there, I just also wanted to put in a word for everyone that, the last part of the book is this very, very precious chapter full of these recipes, which are all about preserving these superfoods, incorporating them into your food. And none of the recipes are the run of the mill, just there for the heck of it. And I like how you've put them into different starters and mains and preserves and things like that. Which one was your favorite recipe that went in there, Nandita, which you would really want people to kind of pay
Okay.
attention to?
So it's like asking me to choose from my own creations, and I do love all of them because again there was this long list, and the only things that made it to the short list are the ones that I thought were worthy of sharing. But because we are just going to go get into summer season, I would love to talk about two recipes. I'll try and show it here on the screen, and I will see this. So is the uh, this here is the sprouted moong and the sprouted moong and red grapes salad, and it's also got yeah. So it's also got. I actually also added green grapes. Sorry, so it's red green grapes and sprouted moong. So again, very light and summery, and you can easily make it at home. Basic ingredients, and also grapes are in season right now. And this other thing, which is the pineapple and yeah, the pineapple and pomegranate yogurt bowl. So this is for a great snack or also breakfast if you are like a yogurt person for breakfast. And you can also put some homemade muesli on top and make it like even more heartier. So these two work so well for the summer because one is yogurt and other is just grapes, which is so refreshing during thing. Just I'll take a 1 second break. I just want to plug in my charger. I'll be back.
So, Natasha, do we have a lot of questions from the audience already?
Yes, I think we have some really interesting ones, and I'm really curious to ask Nandita.
Take over now and ask those questions to Natasha, to Nandita.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your insightful time, and you asked some really interesting questions. I'm sure our viewers are benefited with everything that you guys have spoken about.
It's nothing compared to what's in the book. Actually, I'm not even a food person, or I'm one of those people she described that who sits in front of Netflix and eats. But I've been so inspired myself that it's going to change a few things that I do.
Yeah, I think even I've been fairly inconsistent with my diet. I'm those extreme people who either follow it or don't follow it at all. And when you're trying to follow something for a while, you actually have that day where you just want to binge eat on all of your favorite things,
Oh yeah,
and then
so
you come back to the next
yeah,
day.
that's true. In fact, there was one of the questions that I wanted to ask, but I think we will, address it another time. Because whenever one gets inspired in the family to say, okay, I'm going to do this very healthy, but then there are other people don't sign up for it. So I think you've addressed it very well. Again, in the book for people who are, watching this with family or who want to start this as a family journey of mindful eating and nutritional eating. Nandita has very beautifully explained on how to get children involved into this whole thing of this new journey into a nutritional way of eating and absorbing, in superfoods into your life and into your food. So there's a lot there, but I think some of it might come out in the audience questions. So we'll go there, I guess, Natasha.
Yes. So, Nandita, I think the first question is to you is from Nijesh. He's asking us, can you suggest a healthy diet in vegetarian pregnancy?
Okay, so see, diets like they have to be customized from person to person depending on what nutritional deficiencies they have, especially during pregnancy when you need a higher dose of iron, calcium, etc. So in my book, I have also listed down foods which are rich in certain key ingredients like which we need, like things like iron rich foods, calcium rich foods, and again easily accessible and available. So I think the most important few tips that I can give you is one, it's definitely not required to eat for two people, because that is also a kind of a misconception that you're someone who's pregnant has to eat double the quantity, because the baby is tiny, and of course the that's also even when it's born, but when in the early stages of pregnancy the baby is of hardly any size, right? So you just have to eat a nutritionally dense diet. So adding all these superfoods that we talked about right now to the existing diet. So you don't have to change your diet or eat more, but just whatever you're eating, make sure that you're eating, better nutritionally rich food. Say, I'll take an example of your basic dal and rice. So, why don't you add a handful of your local green leafy vegetables to the dal instead of making it like a plain dal? And you add some tomatoes to it so that the acidity in the tomatoes helps in better absorption of the iron. And when you're making rice, why don't you just saute it in a little bit of turmeric and add some peanuts and make it like a lemon rice? So in that way, you've added extra turmeric to the rice. You've added extra protein by way of peanuts, or you can even add in a paneer or something. So again, uh, your existing diet itself, with just these small enhancements, you have made it more suitable and made it more nutrient dense. So these are the things you need to take care of, and don't deviate too much from your existing diet. And also this whole thing about the media also glorifies all these pregnancy cravings, and that people are eating all like full tubs of ice cream and all that. To be honest, I that's also like such a big hype that people grow to expect that I will be eating like this when I'm pregnant, and it's not so, and not everybody goes through such cravings. So we can all well stick to like a regular diet, but just make sure that whatever you're eating is nutrient dense. And when you're choosing between two foods, choose what is closer to the natural form and what is more nutritious of the two things.
Right. Thank you, Nandita. I hope, Nijesh, this answers your question and helps you. Uh, the next question that we have is what are the imported ingredients for chicken biryani? I'm assuming that's important. What are the important ingredients for chicken biryani?
I'm vegetarian and I really don't cook meat. So I wouldn't. I'm so sorry. I may not be able to. I'm not the right person to answer your question. I can hazard a guess, but that's not the right thing to do. So if I don't eat and I don't cook, then I'm not an expert in this matter to be answering your question. So sorry.
But Nandita, what is your favorite food item? Something that comforts you and you eat regularly?
You can call me boring, but dal rice is my favorite.
It's actually
So
comfort food.
that is comfort food, and if I could literally eat it every day without getting bored with like just a pickle or like a papad or something.
Wow.
And yeah, that's about it. I mean, I do like all cuisines and everything, but it's just that when it comes to comfort food, I don't really want to go adventurous or seek something new. It's just the comfort of the old stuff, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the next question that we have is using olive oil good for the health, or does refined oil make the difference in taste?
Okay, I didn't quite get the second question, but I will answer your first question. See, olive oil is good, just like other oils. In our country, we use oils depending on the geography. Like in the east, they use mustard oil. In some parts of the north, also they use mustard oil. That's because mustard is grown in these parts. In the west, it's mainly groundnut growing region, so we use groundnut oil. In the south, sesame seeds are grown, so we use gingerly oil and coconut oil, because Kerala, that entire belt is coconuts, and also the coastal Karnataka. And so it's just it depends on what grows in what region, and that is that your ancestors have been using it for ages. So any cold pressed oil which has not gone through so much refining and processing in a factory is very good for you. And it's also a good idea to rotate oils. Like today I'm making pasta, I'm not asking you to make it in mustard oil. You can make it in olive oil. You're making South Indian food, you can use coconut oil. And if you're doing some tadka or something, you can use ghee. So there's nothing like olive oil is healthier than something else. It's like comparing two random things and saying, is that better or is this better? There's no such better. And even in olive oil, there are different grades. So the extra virgin olive oil is the first press, of the olive oil. And when you look at the other olive oils which are sold for cooking purposes, like pomace and stuff, that's literally from the final waste products of the olives, what is extracted. So, is that going to have as much nutrition as extra virgin? No. An extra virgin, you shouldn't be heating up to higher temperature. So, you should not be anyway cooking your sabzis and all in that. But do you want to cook the regular olive oil and heat it up and use it in sabzis? The taste will not be good. So, why do you want to even try that? So, I think Indian food stick to Indian oils and fats. And if you're making pasta or pizza, by all means use olive oil. So go with what is traditional to your cuisine, and depending on the cuisine that you're cooking.
Right. I hope this answers your question, Vishu. And Nandita, we have Geeta, who is, congratulating
So
you on your achievement.
that's my aunt. So thank you, Geeta Chitti. That's so sweet of you.
Yeah. Uh, Nandita, I think I would like to take this time to really thank you and Loveleen for joining us today and making this session so insightful and lovely. I'm sure a lot of our audience have gained so much knowledge and they'll start realizing the value of these raw ingredients that we usually have lying around in our kitchen, but we don't pay attention to. So, thank you so much for your time. And I would really want our audience to go pick up the copy. The book is Everyday Superfoods. It's available across all our Sapna Book House outlets. It's also available online at sapnaonline.com. So please go grab your copy right away. This is a book full of treasure. Trust me, once you start reading it, you'd really not want to put it down.
And for those of you in Bangalore, next week I'm going around signing copies in quite a few bookstores, including Sapna. And I will be sharing these locations on my social media at Saffron Trail, be it on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And if you want a signed copy, you can surely pick it up from there.
Loveleen, thank you so much for
Thank
such
you.
amazing questions and for having being in conversation with Nandita today. And
Thank
Nandita, thank you for your time. Wishing you all the best for the book, and hoping to see you in person very soon.
Sure. Thanks
thank
again.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sapna
you.
Book House. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Bloomsbury. And thank you, Loveleen, for reading my book so quickly and asking me the best questions, which really made me think as well, because it's been more than a year since I wrote the book. And of course, the editing process happens, but you've submitted and it just makes you look at things in a new light. So thank you so much for that. And of course, Natasha, for being a great host.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nandita. It was really, really eye opening reading this book for me. And I'm hoping that everybody who was listening in will go buy the book and, change their lives for the better as well. So, bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.